Good evening. Good evening. Ooh. Okay, so I am really, really tired today for no apparent reason. Well, that's not true. It's been nothing but broilingly hot and sunny for the last 4 days, and then 4 hours has been rainy and gray. So that might be part of it. I think the other part of it is the energy I get from my food when it's high carb like this is not long lasting. So I'm finding myself, mixing up my own homemade French toast pretty much regularly during the last 4 weeks. And this is thankfully the last week of doing this. I've actually enjoyed the French toast. I did a little bit of a splurge today. I went grocery shopping and grabbed a candy bar, which one candy bar had. It was a king-sized candy bar, so that's part of it, I think. But I'm trying to think. The one candy bar had, I think, 450 calories. So let's see, 450, 1, 8, 16. I could probably do 5 of those in a day and get the caloric content of a 2,000 calorie diet. 5 of those in a day. Oh, I don't know that I'd want to do that. But I do feel like it wouldn't leave me satisfied. I ate that candy bar at the grocery store on the way to the car. And it took about 15 to 20 minutes to drive back here. By the time I got back here, I'm ready for the second part of a meal. 500 calories should not be what a meal contain. Well, if it's a full meal and you didn't feel the need to eat anything else to go with it, 500 calories is not a bad quantity to get for a meal. I could easily do a 5-meal, 6-meal day where most of the meals averaged about 500 calories. I usually like to space my stuff out like that. Like you start with some eggs and some ham for breakfast, and then you have like a I forget what I used to do for second meal. You could probably do something like an oatmeal or something, or porridge. Third meal would usually be something a little more along the lines of a snack and something to drink. Fifth would be like a chef salad, and then 6 would be like a soup, and then like a final dinner. You can do 7 meals in a day relatively easily. And if you space them about every 2 to 3 hours, you can make it work. The problem I have with the high carbohydrate diet is very few things are low enough calories that you could do that multiple times a day. I'm trying to think. It was, where did I put the box from the waffles from last night? Must have had those back in the kitchen. The details on the waffles were like you could get about 200 and something for 2 waffles, I think. And you could do that a few times in a day, but like that, there are ways to make carbohydrate-based meals that are not calorically dense and get a full complement of meals every 3 hours throughout the day. If you're doing a 16-hour day, let's see, that's Yeah, this is the other thing I'm noticing. My focus is not as good as it should be. The carbohydrate-based diet is not cooperating with my ability to focus my brain. Um, so 16 divided by 3. 4, right? No. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 3 would be 15. So if you did a 15-hour day, um, 5 meals in a day, that's not an impossible task. Every 3 hours, you eat one of 5 meals. Well, actually, the way it's usually done is you wake up and you eat your first meal, and then you start counting your 16 hours from there. So you would get 16. It would be 15 every hour, starting with hour 0 being a meal. So I can see that. I could see that being something you did. So 6 meals in a 16-hour day, every 3 hours. You could feasibly do that. I still feel like there's an additional aspect to a high carbohydrate diet that's hard to explain. I don't want to call it like feeling jittery, but um, it's just sort of like not like a fully energized, like I could go run a marathon or I could go lift weights or I could go work for a few hours or something like that. But just this sort of like twitchiness, um, fidgetiness that I get from it. And then I get these drowsy periods, which, I mean, that's got to be like a blood sugar issue. Although, honestly, like when I've had my blood sugar tested, it's never shown up as particularly having any issues. Except for a period of time where my body was refusing to take food in for a long time, just in and out, just it wouldn't stay in me. And it went on long enough that blood sugar tests showed low blood sugar because I was essentially in a starvation mode. Despite the fact that I was trying to eat, my body would starve itself. It would reject all food and starve itself. And that did upset my blood sugar levels. But other than that, I don't seem to have any issues with blood sugar. But I do think a heavily carbohydrate-based diet instigates spikes and valleys that are harder to recuperate from. It's not a steady flow of energy that one has throughout the day. So I do not feel that it is a conducive to a dietary style conducive to even energy distribution. I feel like if you're really looking for an energy boost, I'm trying to remember there's something like it doesn't take a lot of carbohydrate to replenish your glycogen stores, which is what your brain, liver, and muscles work on for immediate energy needs. But you don't need a lot of it there. But when you eat something, I think it's within the first 2 hours of eating something high carbohydrate that you'll have a lot of available fuel in your blood. But past that period of time, your body sees it as something to be stored. Now, it might even just start storing it automatically right away unless you're in a caloric deficit and need a boost of energy now. But yeah, like I feel like it's not the optimal diet for me. It might work for other people, and that might be partly down to genetics or epigenetics or gut microbiome and how your body handles that. Mine's built not to not to be able to use carbohydrates effectively. Because they don't provide the energy I need. I do feel like doing some of the exercise routines that I've done in the last, doing some of the exercise that I've been trying to do lately, uh, hungrier within an hour of finishing an exercise routine. So I do think that, hitting some carbohydrate sources after that to give it a little bit of a recoup from that, but it doesn't have to be a lot. And doing some of it before, like the night before or early in the day, before you do a lot of physical activity, just tops off the glycogen stores and gives you a lot of free energy to start using. Maybe in the midst of a physical activity, doing something sugary or starchy could be beneficial. I don't think I'm ever really doing enough to really need that. Like a small amount, you don't need a lot. I don't need a lot of carbohydrate to meet those needs. And it's not the only fuel your body can use, but all right. And so the exercise routine, I gotta tell you, man, this cardio crap, like it's sort of hit or miss. Things that you feel like should get you pulse pounding and breathing heavily. That's a poor way to phrase that, I think. Things that should have you breathing heavily and your pulse racing sometimes don't. Like I don't notice to any degree that riding the bike, the stationary bike situation, really revs my heart rate a lot, and I don't feel like I'm breathing heavily when I'm done with that. I feel like my limbs have been abused like Hades. They're just absolutely just jelly after I push them that hard. But I don't feel like I'm breathing heavily. Whereas doing 20 jumping jacks definitely has me slightly winded and my heart racing and take a moment to rest to recoup after. And like 20 jumping jacks isn't a lot of jumping jacks. But I feel like my and I could do 60. It's 60 in a very short span of time. And I could do that multiple times throughout the day. Doing the jumping jacks isn't hard and it doesn't abuse my muscles, but that definitely seems to get my heart rate up and my breathing up. Whereas I can just pedal indefinitely at a bicycle and not feel for an instant that my heart rate was up or I was breathing heavily. But I can't do it indefinitely because my leg muscles are just like, we need to stop. Like at the full speed that I was going, like the absolute just sprint speed that I would pedal at the bike, like my leg muscles are like, oh, nope, we're about 30 seconds in and we need you to stop. I'm not breathing heavily and my heart's not racing, but my muscles are like, nope, you can't push us that long, that hard. And so to a certain degree, I think that's something that, because when I was figuring out what exercises to do for which phases, I was looking at trying to do long-term endurance-based development. So could I go for a 3-hour bike ride? Do I have the ability to do that? And the answer right now is no. I can walk for hours, but at a full pedal, could I go for a long time? No. I'm a very short-term pedaler. So that would be like an endurance an exertion over long periods of time kind of thing I wanted to train. And then I wanted to do a training that would train the slow twitch muscle fibers, which are the ones that are exertion over time, but not endurance times. So it's sort of like I'm going to lift this weight and move it to the other side of the room. That's not an explosive use of energy. And so the third group would be the explosive energy. Can you use a muscle for rapid energy expenditure, and how much energy can you expend in a go? There are different applications for each of those types of exercise, and I wanted to source each of them. Now, there are a few other things that I would like to explore, and I'll probably look at doing them after New Year's. So I want to look into doing some of those kinds of exercises as the future comes. Are you kidding me? God, I hate this internet. I hate this fucking internet. Why are you killing my goddamn signal every time I do this? Well, we'll find out if it killed it, and we stopped recording at 16 minutes in and when I finish up here. So I wanted to do these different fitness routines to get a sense of how I could improve in each of the areas. And doing the cardio first has me definitely aware of my muscles are not currently in a phase of hard work over a long period of time. We can do absolutely brute work in short bursts, and we can do some steady, low-level work over longer periods of time, but not heavy exertion over long periods of time. So I wanted to see if I can improve that state. Now, some of the prospective benefits of doing what I'm doing right now, I hope, are that by the end of this, I could go minutes at a heavy pedal on a bike and not feel the muscle exhaustion that I seem to get right now. And that I could easily exert myself over longer periods of times for, could I pedal on a bike at a medium rate for a full hour and not feel like I'm destroying my legs? Whereas like right now, sprint, kicks, jumps, I can do those all pretty easily, but not past a 30-second threshold. And it doesn't elevate my heart rate, and it doesn't, cause heavy breathing. So I hope that this round of cardio is the breathing and the heart rate would give out before I could exert myself a long period more. But any which way it goes, I'm looking for endurance. I don't know if I should keep calling it cardio or not. Endurance, and then strength, and then explosive is really what I'm aiming for. And if I can improve in those three categories over time, I think that's really what I'm aiming for. So we're at 20 minutes. I don't know that there's a lot more to share here. And I got to see if this thing killed my signal and it's no longer recording. I guess we'll find out. I will be back tomorrow to talk a little bit more of the things that I have done while doing this and the things I've eaten, how I've had to space my meals to figure out how to not be feeling like I'm deprived. A few other thoughts on some of the exercises. We're still pretty early on in the exercises, so there's not as much to discuss in there yet, just my experiences day to day. I will say that with the exercises that I've been doing, it always feels like the first day or two is like, oh, you can't keep doing this. But about day 4 or 5, your body just starts to adapt to that level of activity in that way, and it gets easier. So that's what I'm hoping for with these exercises that I'm doing right now. All right, I think I'm going to call it here. I don't know why the internet's being a jerk to me tonight. We'll find out. I will be back here at 10:30 for discussion of video game creation, and back here again tomorrow at 8 o'clock for more discussion of fitness and diet. And in between then and now, my reviews and creative prompts. Oh, screw you. You can't keep dropping the signal like that. That's a dork move. Knock it off.